Could a problem with your adrenals be causing a problem in your gut? Yeah, that often happens. In a previous video, I discussed some of the common signs and symptoms of a leaky gut, and I also touched briefly on how the adrenals can contribute to this. In this video, I'll go into greater detail with this connection and why you need to start correcting the adrenals before you treat the gut. In my clinic, I'm treating Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, IBS, gas, bloating, constipation. The common element in all of this is inflammation. Chronic inflammation tends to break down tissues. So here's how this works. Normally, the body has a balance between breaking down tissue and building it up. This is what we call homeostasis. The body should be building up at least as much tissue as it's breaking down. If you're growing or building muscle, you'll be building up more than breaking down. But with chronic inflammation, you can get into a state of atrophy in which you are breaking down more tissue than you're building up. One of the major players in this is glucocorticoids, such as cortisol and cortisone. The body uses them to manage chronic inflammation. Some of you out there may be familiar with a cortisone shot, which is commonly used to reduce pain in joints. It does this by reducing inflammation being a cause of the pain. Hopefully, if you or someone you know has received a cortisone shot, it was with full knowledge about the negative long-term effects. Glucocorticoids such as cortisone and cortisol contribute to the breakdown of tissues in muscles, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and other soft tissue. It directly inhibits protein and RNA synthesis and contributes to their premature degradation. Therefore, that temporary relief from a cortisone shot will lead to further deterioration and dysfunction of the joint later. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Our stress hormone cortisol is produced in order to manage stress, but it directly contributes to the breakdown of tissue in the gut, causing leaky gut. Our modern way of life is nothing if not stress-inducing. As a result, leaky gut is rampant and a common contributor to chronic disease. The cortisol connection is why it's important to heal the brain-adrenal communication loop, also known as the HPA axis, before or in tandem with treating the gut. If it goes unresolved, you may find temporary relief from gut treatments, but you may find yourself in the same position in 6 to 12 months. It also leads back to distilling chronic disease down to the basics of lifestyle change. Stress management is vital to treatment. And while we're on the topic, let me just say, many of us are walking around unaware of just how stressed we actually are. We've become acclimated to a stressful environment. On the one hand, this acclimation allows us to be resilient. However, if we aren't honest with ourselves about how stressed we actually are, we cannot change for better health outcomes. When it comes to testing the adrenals, it's important to use a functional approach. The functional approach takes several samples of cortisol throughout the day, since cortisol production follows a circadian rhythm. Conventional approaches spot test a single cortisol sample in the morning, which works for figuring out a diagnosis in the Western model. However, it's insufficient for a functional model. Now, when it comes to treatment of the adrenals, it's important to understand what we're actually treating. We're not actually treating the adrenals alone. We are reconnecting the communication loop between the brain and the adrenals. The dysfunction actually lies in the hypothalamus in the brain, which may have difficulty monitoring the blood for cortisol. This is the underlying problem with what we incorrectly associate with an adrenal problem. Your functional medicine doctor may have a different approach from me. In my clinic, I use a method of giving low doses of certain hormones that retrain the brain to complete the communication loop. And then once this is underway, you'll be ready to address any GI issues like the leaky gut. I won't go into detail about that here. I touched on it in my leaky gut video. As always, thank you for watching. If you suspect you either have an adrenal problem or a leaky gut problem, I am offering consultations. Click the link in the description below to set up an appointment.